Welcome to the stage, David Ansen and Paul Thomas Anderson.
Thank you, Paul, for being here. It is such a treat. I've got to talk about the first time I saw this movie. I remember you invited me, you called me up and you asked me if I would check this movie out. I didn't know, we had met in Cannes. I'd never seen anything. You'd only made that short film, Coffee and Cigarettes. And I was very nervous. I said, what if I don't like it? Who is this kid? You were, what, 24, 23? And you set up a screening at the Fox lot, just for me. And say, well, I can't lie if I don't like it because I'm reviewing movies. And I knew within 10 minutes, I totally relaxed. I said, this guy is a born filmmaker. It was very clear to me that you were in total control.
Amazing.
But what I think I didn't realize at the time was all the craziness you were going through with your producers, with Reicher Entertainment, who basically hated the movie and wanted to take it away from. They fired you twice, I believe. Can you talk a little about that? They wanted to recut the movie.
They did recut the movie.
They did recut the movie.
Yeah.
How did you get your cut back?
I don't even remember really, because it's one of those classic stories that you heard about, as a film fanatic, you would always hear these stories about, films being taken away from directors, and you never thought it would happen to you, let alone on your first film. It was a dark time and really challenging. I don't remember all the details, but the best I can remember it is that I will say, in fairness to them, I will say this: I had never made a movie before, so I had never edited a movie before, and I was given about 6 weeks to edit the movie together, which is probably significantly shorter than, I wasn't a member of the DGA yet, so 4 weeks shorter than you have to get. And so I hadn't really learned. I was really making this up as I went along, and that part was really challenging to me. I thought I would just cut it together how I would planned it, and it would all be perfect, right? Well, it was not like that.
Right.
So I was struggling, in fairness to them, but they were also complete assholes. And fucking morons who aren't even in the business anymore. Like, they should fuck them. But I was so resistant to try to and didn't understand how to communicate to them at all. And they basically just said, we've had enough of you, thank you very much for your services, goodbye. I had been smart enough to kind of take some key pieces of equipment that I might need if I needed to cut it back together again. And tried to get the cast was on my side. They wrote a letter of, to Reicher Entertainment, which made matters only worse. Long story short, there was a version of the film that I made. They did recut the movie, by the way, and they reformatted it as well. They reformatted it so that it was 1:8:5 and it was supposed to be widescreen, and all these horrible things were happening. The negative had been cut, but I knew that there was ways to fix it if I could ever get it back. I don't remember this, and I need to figure out this important detail of the story. Somebody saw the movie on a VHS tape, and somebody that John Lesher knew, my agent, our mutual friend, submitted it to Cannes, to the Un Certain Regard. And somebody at the Cannes Film Festival said, this movie's great, and got in touch with Reicher. And they said, well, it's great, but we've got a better version. And I was able to kind of insert myself and say, and this is the land of great directors. They said, well, we want his film. So I was able to get the film back. Actually, I took the money, because we were starting pre-production on Boogie Nights. I took all the money that I was getting paid on Boogie Nights, and I restored the film back to my version, and got it to Cannes, which was 30 years ago.
Got into Sundance as well, right?
Well, it played at Sundance as a work print. That was a hard time too. Sundance Yeah, they played at Sundance, but that was just the work print that I had stolen.
You kidnapped your
I
own movie.
kidnapped my own movie. It was one of those. There's a lot of more nooks and crannies to that story, but I'm not going to bore you with the details. One day, it was
Right.
It was a hard time.
Yeah, yeah. But the reception in Cannes made Reicher back off.
It
and
did.
You got your cut.
It absolutely did.
Right.
And Samuel
Yeah,
Goldwyn released the film.
He had to change the title. When I saw the movie, it was not called Hard Eight. It was called Sydney.
That's right.
Right.
That was the concession I had to make if I was going to get if they were going to actually allow
Yeah.
me to finish the
Yeah.
film. They wouldn't pay for it, and you had to call it Hard Eight. I said, I don't have to like it, but fair deal.
Right.
You know.
When you wrote the script, did you have Philip Baker Hall in mind for Sydney?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I loved his work, obviously, like a lot of us do. From everything from Secret Honor to Midnight Run to all the great character parts that he'd done over the years. And that was a challenging thing to people liked the script, but at the time they said, why don't you just ask Harvey Keitel to do it? Why don't you just ask so-and-so to do it? So I was really set on Philip being in the film, which was challenging to raise the money, but ultimately it was okay, and thank God, but for sure, it's written for his voice.
Yeah, yeah. He's so good in it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, basically your sort of stock company all appear in this movie.
Yeah.
And there in that amazing one scene is Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah.
How did he end up in your movie? Did you know his work?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he'd done Scent of a Woman, maybe about 5 or 6 other films by the time he did this, which, by the way, was like, he was a veteran to me. He was like, oh my God, he's been in 5 or 6 movies. It was like John Riley had been in 7 movies. It was like, tell me what. But the very first time I talked to Phil, it's funny because he'd been in 6 or 7 movies, I thought, well, I wonder if he'll do this movie, Meanwhile, he was just like waiting for the phone to ring. So I said, would you do this movie? He said, yeah, of course. He saw the short that I did. I talked to him on the telephone. And the very first time I met him in person was when we shot that scene. Yeah, we shot it in one night.
Did he largely improvise that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the scene's like that long, just written out that there's a young crap player who's sort of goading him and teasing him, and maybe I wrote a few lines of dialogue out, but the majority of it, the vast majority of it, is improvised by Phil. Yeah. So I was obviously fell in love pretty hard that night.
Yeah. Because I get the feeling there's not a lot of improv in the rest of the movie.
There isn't, not really, no.
Yeah.
That's the one real scene. Here and there, John will throw some things in, but mostly it, and Sam would too a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's pretty close to the script.
Yeah. Well, it's such a classical movie, which I think is why it doesn't date at all. I mean, I watched it again recently, and it just looked sort of exactly the same way it looked to me when I first saw it.
Good, yeah.
And there's so many movies of that era that do date.
Yes.
I mean, I'm curious what kind of research you did. I mean, for example, the rate card trick that he shows him. Now, how did you know about that?
I'm trying to remember. I went up to Reno for the very first time in my life, like 3 years before this film. I got a job as a PA on a Robert Conrad TV movie. It was called Sworn to Vengeance. He's sworn to vengeance. And our production office was out of the Peppermill Hotel and Casino, so I was a PA and kind of put myself up and paycheck right back into staying there, and it was a great experience. And it was my first real experience living at a casino. I would go to Las Vegas to gamble, and I liked it. I liked that world. Yeah. But this was like a different thing. Reno was different. It's different than Vegas. It's a whole very separate kind of vibe. And so living there and working there for the 2 months, maybe a month and a half or 2 months, really sparked a lot of things in me, and I got to know the people that worked there. I suppose I learned that trick from somebody there at the time. I don't really remember it. Met a lot of cocktail waitresses, who were always very cautious to not do the wrong thing or step out of line, because they were moonlighting as prostitutes, or they didn't want to be considered to be moonlighting as prostitutes. But yeah, it's a world. What's funny is that when we were working as a PA, you have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. So when you get up at 5 o'clock in the morning in a casino, you see a lot of things that are worth writing down.
How long did you take to write this script?
I don't remember. Maybe I remember it coming pretty fast. Maybe in about a month. I remember a lot of it happened during an incredible rainy season. I was living with my dad at the time in a house that he rented, and it was up in the canyon, and it was so much rain it was impossible to get down the roads, which was really helpful when you're trying to write something. You're just stuck. I remember that quite well. I don't think it was long.
You seem to be drawn, watching it, the relationship between Paul and Riley. I mean, it reappears in a lot of your movies. I mean, you're the father figure or the mentor figure. I mean, when you think of Burt Reynolds and Dirk Diggler and Boogie Nights, or the relationship in The Master, it seems to be something that you gravitate towards.
Yeah.
I mean, is that at the heart of why you wanted to write the script, that relationship?
Well,
that mentorship?
I guess so. I mean, it must have been. It wasn't a conscious thing. I just love that dynamic. It's a good dramatic dynamic. Somebody who knows something who's older, somebody who doesn't know enough when they're younger. That has tremendous dramatic possibilities. But yeah, I've seen it over and over again that I kind of keep gravitating towards it. Or even maybe sometimes thinking, well, I've got to do something new, and then just doing it again.
Well, you made it a father and a daughter in the last one.
That's right, exactly. You gotta have somebody who knows more than the other person. In the last one, I guess the daughter was the father, and the son was the We used to have a line in that movie when they're getting their Social Security fake cards, it's like, this is a mother and son who died in childbirth, and he starts to do the math, and he says, wait, so I'm the son and she's the mom? I thought it was a great line, but everybody who saw it was just like, I don't know what you're talking about, I don't understand that line. So, fair enough, I'll take it.
What did you see Gwyneth Paltrow in when you cast her in this? Was she someone you had in mind for the part? Or?
She was a young actress who had been in Flesh and Bone.
Right.
Remember that great Steve Kloves film?
She was good in that.
Maybe Jefferson in Paris. Maybe she had been in the Dorothy Parker film. There's a lot of people in that.
Right, the Alan Rudolph film.
So she was emerging as a young actress who was really exciting. I met her, and I was really taken with her. But in the year between meeting her and casting her, and actually getting the money to go make the movie, she really started to blossom. I mean, mainly she started dating Brad Pitt as well. She showed up as the girl who was dating Brad Pitt. I was like, that girl, she's on the cover of People magazine. So a lot had happened in her life by the time she turned up. Not a ton, but it was her fame was growing, and her talent was really blossoming. So she stuck with the film too. I didn't think she had to. She probably didn't have to. It was very kind of her to, a year later, still stick with this first-time filmmaker. When I'm sure, and I know, her agents were saying, you don't need to dump this movie. You don't need to go to Reno to do this little movie. You've got these bigger offers and stuff. So I owe her a great appreciation for that.
And she's so good. It's one of her best performances.
I agree. Yeah, it's terrific.
Really terrific. And Sam Jackson. I mean, he'd done some big stuff before.
Sam. I think me and the rest of our generation, when we saw Sam Jackson in Jungle Fever, was the first time we're really introduced to Sam Jackson in a real way. It was like, you couldn't believe that performance. So I'd always wanted to work with him, and then when he emerged, and Pulp Fiction was such a big role for him, such a big breakout role, and it really helped get the financing, for sure, to have him in the film at that time, because he was, he's still riding high. Sam Jackson's never gone out of style. Sam Jackson's never really gone out of style. He's gone on a big wave and has been on it ever since.
Yeah, he's amazing. I mean, and all the people, had you worked, how did you, this was the beginning of a really great collaboration with Robert Elswit, your cinematographer, who ended up winning the Oscar for There Will Be Blood.
That's right.
How did you hook up with him?
Okay, that's a good question. I saw a film that he shot called Waterland.
Was that the Kevin
Stephen,
Costner?
no, not that one.
Oh, that's
Our World. Waterland is a very, very small film set in somewhere in the UK with Lena Headey,
Right.
Jeremy Irons told in flashback. Stephen Gyllenhaal directed it, and it's so beautiful and so simple. And I went, oh my gosh, who's this guy? Maybe some British cinematographer or something like that.
Yeah.
And I said to John Riley, who was shooting, this is really how the story went. I said to John, he said, who's going to shoot the movie? I said, well, I've just seen this fantastic film. There's this DP named Robert Elswit. He says, I'm working with Robert Elswit right now. He was shooting The River Wild with Curtis Hanson up, you know. I was like, Robert Elswit is shooting this big-ass action movie on the rapids? He says, yeah, he's a great guy. And I instantly thought, well, I'll never get him for my little $2 million movie. You know, this is a guy who does big movies. I looked up his credits. He really had shot a lot with Curtis Hanson.
Yeah.
Anyway, he met me, and he was nice enough to shoot the movie when he certainly didn't have to. And thank God, he taught me everything about. I was just faking my way around that camera, you know, and he taught me so much and helped me so much. He was my, you know, I was the youngest person on the set, and so yes, I was the director, but I was the least experienced person there. But he gave me such respect and power, you know, and the crew trusted him. He helped interpret for me a language that I didn't really have yet. I thought I did maybe, but I didn't. I don't think I did. I probably had more than you know, but still, I can't undersell enough, you know, what he meant to shaping me and helping me.
You obviously learned a lot. The leap from that to Boogie Nights, in terms of technically, is amazing. You know, and then to Magnolia, where you were really swinging for the fences. You know, this year, you know, you're kind of bunting in this one.
Right.
So.
Well, I mean, I think. Yeah, when we joked at dinner, it's like, this has a discipline that I've long since forgotten. I think that I was very aware of this story, and I think that the films that I was inspired by, one of the great films that I really loved was Atlantic City, the Louis Malle film, which I think this film owes a tremendous debt to. The Burt Lancaster character,
the great John Guare screenplay.
Amazing screenplay, and it's incredibly simple. That being a compliment, simple. Its direction is simple. Its storytelling is straightforward. And I realized that, look, I didn't have the money to be anything complicated, and even if I did, why would I fuck this movie up by adding some kind of unnecessary style on top of it? So to be straightforward and precise was a good approach. I suppose you say that reflects the guy, you know, that's the character. You know, you're telling it in that fashion. And that fits a budget and the restrictions that you have too. So it's a kind of approach to it.
He wears well-tailored suits, and it's a well-tailored
Yeah,
film.
it's keep it together, keep it straight.
Should we get some questions from the audience?
We can start now, but I'm going to let y'all talk for as long as you want to talk. But I'll go ahead and start really quick. So we're going to aggregate some of the questions from all of you. And there was so much love in all of the questions, so I just loved reading them all. So I'm going to do my best to do all of you justice. So here's some questions about just the production of Hard 8, and I really liked all the Hard 8 questions quite a bit. So in your recent films, I understand you've been very involved in the technical side of production, camera, lighting, etc. during the production of Hard 8. How involved were you with camera, lens, and lighting choices with Hard 8? And then, you know, what lessons or skill did you learn with Sydney that made it essential to make Boogie Nights, which you and David sort of already talked about a little bit. And then the last thing was, you know, Sydney didn't make a bunch of money, so how did you still have the resources to go ahead and make Boogie Nights? it's so rare now that when you have like a first failure as far as financially, it's so hard to get a next movie funded, right? So how did you go about doing that?
Well, first of all, it didn't make a little. It made no money. It lost money. So that's first. And the way I got away with that is that it hadn't even come out yet and failed before I went to go get Boogie Nights together. In the process of the film being taken away from me, when we started to kind of realize that seemed inevitable and that door was closing, as a way to survive. Boogie Nights had already been written, and I said, well, I have to just try to strike right away again, and that's when I met my hero and savior, Mike DeLuca, at New Line. So this film showed him that I could at least put a story, a beginning and a middle and an end together. But and it was his trust and faith in me. He didn't need to see the movie come out and do well for him to have faith in Boogie Nights.
Yeah.
And we talked the same language about films and the kind of same references and the same sort of passion for what that story could be. He really had faith in me. And by that time I did feel, this is ridiculous to say because I felt more experienced than I felt ready for it, but what I've learned after 30 years of doing this is that that's a total farce, because every single time is different, and you do learn a lot of things, you get better, but you're an amateur every time, because every movie's different and it will present a whole new set of problems that you've never seen before. That's just the nature of it. That's why it's addicting. That's why it's so fun.
Yeah.
But you got me kind of thinking about this a little bit, because maybe I was very lucky too, at a time when it seemed that Hollywood would nurture a filmmaker along for a film or two films, even three films, and let them grow, let their voice emerge from experience that seems less and less possible right now. Where you see people make one very small film only to instantly run towards the biggest paycheck or opportunity they can have for fear that it might go away. And it's like an epidemic. So it's an unfortunate thing, and I think I was just blessed with the time that I was doing it and benefactors who had enough faith in me to give me that support. Because there is a world where if the first film just didn't perform, they would have said, give us the keys back, And that's really sad to think that that's a thing that could be happening right now, or is happening right now. Because it does take a second. I mean, I was 23 when I made this movie. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, I mean, I did, but I was faking it.
Right. Well, you faked it very well.
Thank you. Still sort of faking it too. You always feel that way. You have to feel that way.
Yeah.
You have to feel.
Yeah.
It came up also in the questions about new filmmakers and what excites you, and then you were talking about you were really vocal when you were younger about what it took for you to make it and what it took to make it in that climate, and you just kind of expressed how different the climate is now. You probably would have been offered a Marvel movie if you had been a young filmmaker at this time or something like that, or Netflix would have bought Heart 8 for 25 grand, so like what excites you with young filmmakers and young artists? There's a lot of questions about young filmmakers, advice, like what's your relationship to supporting young filmmakers? That came up a lot in all the questions as well, and the current climate of the film industry.
Well, yeah, it's funny because it doesn't. I used to be obsessed with the things that all young filmmakers are. It's like, well, what's the format? What's this? Some technical things, which ultimately become there. It's a thing that helps you tell your story, of course, and I'm still obsessed with that stuff. But what's my point? When you see a film, maybe it has a technical polish to it. So what? You know a film by its story, by its connection to people. Always. You can always see through, they didn't have enough money to do this. Fine, it doesn't matter. It's so cliched, but truthfully, when you see a story well told, generally in the script, you can tell. I I think what I would like to see more of is more writing, more solid writing in filmmakers coming up. It seems that there's a little bit of the writing isn't strong enough, but the directing, and there's some amazing filmmaking going on, some inventiveness, but the writing has to be so foundational and so strong that,
Do you think that maybe some of the best writers are all working in television and not in film?
Probably.
That's one of the problems.
I do. I think, I think the movies, man, I don't know. Yeah, it used to be that the movies were the coolest things you could do. Now it's like, it's kind of like a stepchild up to the side. Everybody's doing television. You're like, wow, okay, that's okay. I still like movies, But it's true, a lot of great writers have migrated to television. And I get it, I understand, there's tremendous opportunities there.
There were a lot of questions about writing, your writing process. I'm going to rattle some off again, and then you can kind of take it from there. How has your writing process differed and/or stayed the same between Hard Eight and One Battle After Another? Do your scripts begin with a story, a character, or both? What are we missing from the longer cut of Sydney? And the last one is, which of your films changed the most from script to the final cut?
I'll try to remember all of them. I know that I sit at a desk. I know that I like to wake up early. I know that the kind of experience is probably the same as it ever was. But writing this movie was really out of my experiences in Reno and a bit of my imagination and a bit of other films that I was trying to copy. Boogie Nights, I had an experience of growing up in the San Fernando Valley, and I had this awareness of the porn industry, and I had films that I was trying to copy. By the time I got to Magnolia, I was really making a movie that was really about my life, that I had lived and seen. And I think by the time I made Punch Drunk Love, I was trying to find new ways to approach making a film and write a film, and I probably became a lot looser and more experimental and less, more willing to deviate from what I wrote in my room and try to not care so much about being precious with the words or anything like that. And it was a great way to get me to write There Will Be Blood, which was a significant research film. So for the very first time, really write a film that required a tremendous amount of understanding of a time that I knew nothing about, zero. But I knew the humanity of that story that I could tell, and I could get in touch with that. But it was a really great experience to learn about something that I didn't know how oil came out of the ground. I didn't know anything about that world, and that changes your writing because you are. There's an old saying that says when working ain't working, research. When research ain't working, sleep. And I just remember living like that for a few years. Like, this writing isn't going anywhere. Well, I'll just keep researching and learning and more. And you're gathering everything from names of places, names of characters, to bits and pieces to understand how people existed in a world which will inform the story. And I've found that to be my happiest place when writing, is when there's a combination of research to do with the writing. That's a lot about writing, sorry.
There are a lot of research with Phantom Thread and the fashion world.
I knew nothing about. Not only did I know nothing about it, I didn't even think I liked the fashion world. I thought it was kind of a strange world, but Daniel and I were drawn to it because it fit. Making a film about a painter didn't seem right. Making a film about a writer didn't seem right, but you needed a vessel for this person, for this character. And that world of the post-war London 50s dressmaker, which was really exciting to us, because that, what you learn is you're not going to be the best dressmaker if you're in London. The best ones are in Paris. You're going to be the best in London, which is not the same. That's not the same as the best dressmaker in the world. So that was an interesting thing to learn about. the shortage of fabrics that they would have, what that in their inner world, what that does to their kind of stresses about what it means to have. It's not in the film at all, but it's the kind of thing that builds the film when we talk about it with Daniel. So yeah, and getting to know that world.
Yeah.
Amazing.
There were a lot of questions about your collaborators and like eras of collaborators also. You know, John Bryan, Amy Mann, all the actors that you've worked with and worked with continuously. When you were making Hard 8, did you know that you were going to continue to work with Michael Penn and Amy Mann and John Bryan and Robert Elswit? And did you have that sense that you wanted to work with them again and that you were going to continue to work with them?
For sure. I mean, I started. I mean, these are the first people that I collaborated with, and it was so exciting. I mean, I think it was something that I'd longed for. I mean, I was used to like trying to just talk my friends in high school into like waking up early for a dawn shot, and everyone was like, "Fuck off!" I'm like, finally, there's people that have the same feeling about making something that I do. So it was the first collaborations that and it was so how blessed that John Riley was really one of the first actors that taught me about what it means to work with actors. Philip Baker Hall, Michael Penn and John Bryan for the music. I mean, and Robert, everybody there. Mark Bridges has been from the beginning. Yeah. So I got the bug of what collaboration meant from these folks, and obviously it triggered more, you know, to want to do more, to write another movie that could harness their talents or they could feed the things that we've talked about. It was the beginning of that time. I mean, you know, John Bryan, we did when we did the score for Punch Drunk Love in 2001. We went to Abbey Road to record the music, and I had told him about an idea for a movie that I had. It was kind of about a bounty hunter out in the desert, and he wrote some music for it, 2 pieces of music, and we said, well, you know, no one knows this story, don't put this anywhere. He's like, there's an orchestra here, let's get the orchestra to record it. And there are 2 pieces of music that ended up in One Battle After Another, 24 years later, that I've just held on to. I was waiting for that story to blossom and grow, and you know, so that's a great story.
Have you used in this movie? There's
that chime thing, that
thing.
bell.
You use that in other
I used that again in Boogie Nights. I figured, nobody saw this movie. I'll just put it. It works, you know.
Yeah, it's in the van, right?
Yeah, it's in
Yeah,
the
it's
van
all-
in Boogie Nights when it's intercutting a few different stories. I think that Heather's in the back seat of the limousine and she's kicking the guy's face in, and Mark's jerking off in the parking lot. I think.
Yeah. I'm so glad you brought up the use of that John Bryan music in One Battle. You know, when I saw One Battle, I was like pinpointing, like, where is that from? Where is that from? Because it didn't sound like the Johnny Greenwood stuff.
Yeah.
And so you recorded the John Bryan stuff during Punch Drunk Love recording?
That's right.
Yeah.
We're done at the same recording session.
Yeah, it made me, I'm so sentimental about the John Bryan stuff, it made me cry when I heard it in One
Yeah.
Battle After Another, so
Yeah,
it's incredible.
And you didn't even know it existed.
I didn't know it
And yet you
existed,
feel
but I
that.
could tell that it was that. I could feel it, yeah.
Yeah.
Really cool. Actors come up a lot in all the questions.
Melora Walters, by the way, is in the movie for 2 seconds. I've worked with her, I think, 5 or 6 different times.
Yeah.
Small parts, big parts, everything parts. She's
Yeah.
just great. This was the first time I met
Who
her.
is with When He Gets Killed.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd seen her in a movie called $20. Do you remember $20? Like a $20 bill goes around.
Oh, yeah.
She's so fantastic in it. And I met her to actually, I think she might have auditioned for the Gwyneth Paltrow part. And Gwyneth was more right for the part, but I asked her to do this very small part, and then the beginning of a long collaboration with her. She's
Yeah.
great.
A lot of questions about what draws you to actors, and then I'm curious, what have you learned about acting that you didn't know, 20 years ago or 30 years ago?
Well, it was all, it still kind of is, I have to say. How do I say this? It was very mysterious to me what acting was. I didn't know how they could possibly do this, really, you know. I didn't know the words exactly to use. I knew a little bit, like, you're not supposed to give them line readings, you know. I said, well, why? What's wrong with that exactly, you know? And I think with the meaning, you start to understand things. It's like, well, you don't have to tell me how to chew gum. We have to talk about why am I chewing gum? What's the point, you know? You would hear a lot of very scary stories about actors driving people crazy with motivation and all these kinds of things. And I've never found that kind of stuff to be true. I've never witnessed that kind of thing. As I've gotten older and I see some of these stories, and I can say, okay, I see where some of these stories are coming from. You know, like anybody that would say, like, Sean Penn's difficult to work with, I'm like, no, he's not. I think you might have asked Sean Penn to do something that was really dopey, and he said, "I'm not going to do that," you know, because like, and I'm sure he was right, you know, and I'm sure that director thought something like, "Well, yeah, but my shot is this, and I want it to fit my shot." You know, those are understandable things, but it's bullshit. You know, the actor is the most important thing that we're looking at when we sit in a movie theater. And the movie has to come to them. You know, I'm not saying that as a whole general rule. Obviously, they're there to push each other and everything else, but you can't wedge something in.
Right. Have you ever been in a situation like, I mean, I've been on sets where there were 3 actors and they all had completely different ways of working.
Yeah.
And that could be a problem.
Huh.
I mean, I have a feeling that your team kind of is in sync.
Well, I think hopefully it happens before you get to work. That
Right.
if you're meeting, at least nowadays, you know, you're talking with somebody, you're meeting with somebody, you're really trying to get the lay of the land of each other to see how, you know, do you feel the same way about this work that we're so privileged to do? Are you happy when you go to work? Because I am, you know. Do you like to do this? Do you like to, you know, it's kind of a dating thing, and I think you get a sense that we're in sync, you know. Boy, that would be tough if there was 3 different types of personalities. I mean, I've seen things here and there, but actors have to fight their corner too. You know, that's part of the job. If you can recognize the difference between an actor's vanity, which is complete bullshit. You're saying you want to do that for some kind of reason other than servicing this film or your character. When you spot that, you just either don't want to work with that person or you can't believe that you're in the same room with them, because that is just not cool. You know, I've been lucky enough to work with people who are there, egoless, serving the material for you know, exclusively for that. You know, I think more than anything, it's to give Also, the thing, it's fair for actors to have a bad rap or something, then maybe they'd be fussy or something, because a lot of times a film set is not guided towards a comfortable or generous environment for them to work. I've seen or heard stories time and time again about, you know, let's say an actor's about to do a big emotional scene, and the crew's banging around as if, you know, they only care about setting that light, or there's people talking on walkies, or fucking around. All right, let's have it quiet, everybody. It's a big emotional scene, you know, treating it very, flippantly or disrespectfully. You know, I don't think that actors want to have like a red carpet rolled out and like all that. Like, they just want a comfortable and safe environment to work in that's respectful of what they have to do, which is to be emotional, concentrate, whatever it is. It's hard. It's very athletic type work. It takes a lot out of you, and I think they just want an environment where they feel safe to do that. Because imagine, you know, you can fuck with your head if you're an actor. You know, you go and you have to play make-believe, and you feel like a fool if you kind of sober up out of it. You're like, what am I doing with my life? This is, you know, you have to be there for that. You have to be compassionate to that and have safety nets and to be encouraging and be honest with them too. You know, Joaquin's the best like that. He doesn't want compliments. You know, he doesn't want good job or bad job, because he doesn't want to ever feel that I'm either not honest with him or that we're high-fiving. You know, it's kind of like there's another scene to do. There's another scene to do. You can't celebrate. But I also know him well enough to know that, like, well, I'm not gonna wax your car, but I'm gonna give you a tap on the shoulder if it was great. Come on, I gotta say it. Come on, you know, that was a good one.
Pretty great in the master.
Yeah, he sure is. He sure is.
Yeah, it must be tough to not get excited when you see something that incredible. Anyway, we've had Hard 8 screening tonight, and we have Boogie Nights playing at the 70mm Festival down the street at the Palm Springs Cultural Center in a couple weeks. Please go to that, support that. What does it mean for, and this is from Emma Sages from the Sun, by the way, so Emma's here, shout out to Emma. What does it mean for people to continuously revisit your work after all these years, and your relationship to the audience, and how much people love your movies?
I mean, it's incredible, isn't it? I mean, it's because there's people here, so there's some young faces, which is an incredible feeling for me. I told David this earlier when I was coming to do this. I must admit, look up myself on IMDb because I couldn't exactly remember some of the years, and I was nervous you were going to ask me some years, and I think I can't trust IMDb. I think some of those years are a little bit wrong, but the point is that when I was doing it, John Riley sent me a text, and I started to realize that it's 30 years ago today, or right around now, that we were at the Cannes Film Festival. So it was very emotional for me to think about how long it's been, what that time was. John still deeply in my life, coming here with you, who I've known for so long, to show the film again. I got incredibly emotional and filled with a kind of, pride's not the right word, but just like, I patted myself
You
on
should
the
be
back.
proud.
It's a sweet feeling.
Quite a career, Paul.
We got a couple more. If you can just tell me when you're ready to go or whatever, but we got a couple more.
I've got a few more answers in me.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna do this fun one first, and then I'll go to something else. So, this is from Brad from Heyday. Brad, what's up? In support Heyday, an awesome restaurant. So you mentioned it's time for a martini at the Academy Awards. What is your martini order of choice?
Thanks for asking, Brad. Do you serve martinis?
Burger and martini special.
Oh, shit.
I served there for a year, as a matter of fact.
You got an Impossible Burger there?
We have a mushroom burger.
Mushroom burger? Vegan?
That's good.
All right, I'm down. I like that. I was actually just talking with somebody about this. I like a martini. I always ask, when somebody says dry martini, is that in this day and age, is that just vodka or just gin? Because I always thought dry was a touch of vermouth. That's right. You can either walk the vermouth up to the glass and introduce them to each other, or you can drop a drop of it in and then swirl it and then dump it, and then the glass has to be freezing. The glass has to be freezing cold, and the gin or vodka, I guess it should be gin, that's more of a martini, should be absolutely freezing cold. Now I do like a lemon, but it should be a Meyer lemon, I think. And sometimes I like an onion, which is a Gibson as well, which is quite good. But it has to be freezing, because the truth is, like John Steinbeck said, the first sip of a martini is like a bite from a vampire bat. You know? And kind of like the first sip of coffee, it just goes downhill after that. Really, maybe the second one's good, and then it starts getting warm, and I'm just kind of like, I'm drunk enough, is it? One more thing about that, too.
Please. By all means, we love this.
I think don't take any disrespect to this, please, but it is a fucking sin to serve a martini in too big of a glass. I do not like those big martini glasses. I don't know what size your martini glasses are. I have to say it, though. I have to say it. I like a small one. They kind of smaller is better. There's the Nick and Nora glasses. Those are quite good in that shape. Maybe, if they're smaller, then you can have two.
Nora had about 15.
No, I know that, but they really did. He just there's no way you could do that many, but
No. I mean, no way you could make that movie and have them drink like that today.
No, I know.
They're both alcoholics.
What great films. We try to watch those around Christmas time at my
Yeah.
house. Yeah,
Yeah.
such a great.
Sorry about the Thin Man.
So, yeah, Thin Man, yeah. David's too modest to probably ever proposition a question like this, and this is gonna be my question, I guess. I'm really curious. I've known David for 10 years. This is month with the programmer, with David Ansen, so I'm really curious about your relationship with David over the years, and obviously you talked about how it started, but, what it's like to have supporters and friends like David in this industry,
Well, I think David and I first met at Cannes, I think the year or maybe even 2 years before this. And I was excited to meet somebody whose name I had seen. And, it was so exciting to meet somebody whose views you mostly agreed with. And as a subscriber to Newsweek, the Newsweek reviews were the ones that I was the most familiar with. So I was just sort of excited I was so young, I was so excited to meet somebody that I could talk about movies with, and we did see eye to eye, and then to venture to ask you to see the film was a leap that I took, but I thank God it worked out for both of us, because I think at that time I needed an expert's view to tell me that I wasn't crazy, and that was incredibly helpful. But I think I would say, as I said at the LA Film Critics, I think our friendship became cemented when he'd given me terrific reviews for this and a terrific review for Boogie Nights and Magnolia as well. But his Punch Drunk Love review he was a little bit lukewarm. And at first I was a bit hurt, but as we talked about, it's the kind of thing that makes you realize you have a real friend, because you need them to be honest with you. And so there's an honesty there and a directness. I think it's kind of funny how we talk about things, like quite honest and just out on the table. So that was, I think, a thing that truly cemented our friendship, that it was not just about enjoying the films I made, but being honest when you were, less than connected with it. So that was a big moment for us, and we just kind of continued on since then.
I also remember when you showed me a somewhat early cut of Boogie Nights, knowing that you knew that I was on the selection committee for the New York Film Festival, and I was so knocked out by it. I said, if it's the last thing I do, I'm getting this movie into the New York Film Festival. Yeah. And I had to fight to get it. There were some people on the committee who did not want Boogie Nights in the New York Film. It ended up being the centerpiece, and it was a huge success. But
wow, look, we showed There Will Be Blood for the very first time we showed it to anybody to the New York Film Festival. I won't name any names, but I thought, boy, this movie's really good. I can't wait to show this to somebody. And they came back and they rejected the film.
It wasn't, the scandal of that was that it wasn't they who rejected it. It was one person who didn't let the rest of the committee even see it.
I called him, I said, how did you like the film? It was done. He was like, is it finished? Is this it? I was like, I was so confused and heartbroken. I thought this movie was really good, and the first person I showed it to, it was like eating something, like making a face, like,
Most people don't know that happened, but it.
Oh God, did I just say? Maybe I shouldn't have said
No. It's out there.
Okay, that was a hard one. It was a hard couple weeks where I was, those kinds of things they're a blow, They can really hurt your, but they're great, in a way. They kind of make you get back in the ring, and we had to find a way to show that film. We went down to Tim League had a fantastic fest. So we went down there and we showed it there for the first time, While the New York Film Festival was happening, we were down. Like, we'll show you, motherfucker. And we had a great time in Austin. It was the best place to show it for the
Yeah.
first time because it's such a great festival. The crowd was so great. We shot it in Texas. It was so welcoming and warm, and it was great. It was like we would have been at Alice Tully Hall with a bunch of fussy. It was like, no, we got what needed to happen happened, and it was really exciting.
Yeah.
But that rejection is super
Yeah.
super devastating for a little while.
Yeah.
I got one more question here, and then I'll let you all do what you want to do.
David came to the set of There Will Be Blood.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what scene you were at, David? Do you know what scene was being
I
shot
do.
when you were there?
Yeah, well, there were a couple of scenes.
It-
There was one scene that I don't think appeared in the movie, actually.
I
That
think
very hot, it was really hot inside that cabin.
the mess hall where they're looking. You were there when we were doing the scene where they're looking at the map, and Daniel says, "Why don't I own this?" And
Right.
Ken Downey
Right,
is
right, yeah.
pointing to the bandy
Yeah,
track, and that
yeah.
you were there for that. I
Yeah.
think the scene subsequent outside was
Yeah, and it was so interesting to talk to Danny because he insisted on keeping that accent, his John Huston accent. But he wasn't in character. He was totally charming and,
right.
and gracious and talkative, but he sounded like John Huston.
Yeah.
All right, the last question I have is about how personal you've been and open you've been about being personal in your writing and in your filmmaking. And I just find your films to also just be so cathartic for myself, and how much you push yourself to make personal films, I guess, and very few, there's so many filmmakers I love, but very few filmmakers are, and so many of these questions were about, like, whether it was your father or, chosen family, all these themes that you've been kind of going back to or evolving on. So, I guess just like your relationship to, how much you dig to get to that kind of personal, cathartic filmmaking that I think sets you apart in so many of your films.
Well, thank you. I mean, I take that as a compliment. I think the films that I like or the films that I am inspired by are generally doing that. So if I am doing that, it's a great feeling to think that I'm succeeding in that. Because I'm sure I do think of it that way. I don't, I don't really. You don't think of anything you do as, maybe you, I don't know. You're definitely always kind of touching on the things that trafficking in a world that you feel that you have some experience in. Even when you don't, you have to. What I mean by that is, I can only daydream about what it is like to be in the California oil fields. I can read about it, but I know what it's like to be a child. I know what it's like to have a father. I know family dynamics, so we all understand those. I suppose it kind of even goes back to just when you're trying to form any kind of story, you're saying, well, what will an audience care about? And generally they'll care about the thing if you care about it. And I remember writing things that I thought would be so interesting about, like watching oil come out of the ground and all this stuff, like pages and pages. It was like, it'll be like Moby Dick, in the chapters when it's all about the whale and all that. Until you say, that's boring, What's interesting, that man and that child and that relationship. That's what we can all understand. I think you're always asking yourself, well, what do we all understand, And whether that's like a personal desire or more of like how to make an entertaining film, they end up feeding each other quite well. I suppose in the One Battle After Another, it's the same thing too. There's so many things going on in that movie, but the only way to keep it anywhere near in focus is to just remember that there's a father looking for his daughter. That isn't even his daughter. What's the point? The point is, get back to the people. That will make it exciting for an audience. And maybe part of that is too, is that because we're showing this movie, it reminds me of something that Jack Fisk said many years later when I worked with him, but maybe instinctually I knew it, was that if you don't have any money, you don't have any money for design, you don't have anything, but you have actors. I remember when we were making There Will Be Blood, Jack Fisk we were talking about a special effect we were trying to do, and we didn't really have it, and he said, what do we need that for? We have Daniel Day-Lewis. It's the best special effect there is. And the point is, to your point about whatever I'm writing, whatever, it's the people, telling the human stories. I mean, that's where my heart and my interest goes, and hopefully a little bit of why we're all here tonight. That's cool to me. Very cool. Did that answer your question?
It did. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Tell your friends that Heartache's going to play for the rest of the week, so tell your friends.
Amazing. Tell your friends.
Tell your friends that they weren't here. All right, thank you both so much. Thank you.